Hey guys, welcome back to Pillbox Movies. I'm Hank, and today we're going to be watching the 2021 Norwegian drama The Worst Person in the World, or Verdens, verste, menneske. I really did try. This is a film by director Joachim Trier. It stars Renate Reinsve. This is the third part in Trier's Oslo trilogy. We watched the first part of this trilogy, Oslo 31st of August. Yeah, I figured we should check out the 2021 one and completely ignore Reprise, apparently. So yeah, let's check out The Worst Person in the World. And before we get started, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. I can see why people like this movie, obviously. I mean, that's just a remarkable silhouette. Like the introduction of Scarlett Johansson in the beginning of Lost in Translation. Sometimes you just make a huge first impression.
Julie var skuffet over seg selv. Dette pleide å være så lett for henne. Det var bare for mange forstyrrelser, for mange meldinger, oppdateringer, for mange ting kunne gjøre med.
Truly a millennial director.
Herregud, hvis psykologi gjør deg lykkelig, så ja.
This is already such a different pace from Oslo. I'm kind of buzzing a little bit.
Hun tok en midlertidig jobb I en bokhandel.
So we have a character who's kind of figuring out their identity, kind of wearing a lot of different suits or different hats.
Oslo var med en helt annen by. Det var andre
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, really.
Kjent som tegneren av Gaupe.
It's the actor from Oslo, Axel, Anders Danielsen Lie. But this is true, something like when you live in a city and you wear different identities, you get to see different aspects of that city. Different kind of pocket dimensions open themselves up to you. And it's actually a wonderful kind of experience in experimenting in the city that you learn when you take on these different identities and whatnot, that there's all these different sorts of sub-languages. Everybody's speaking a different secret language that you can have access to as long as you know like the password into it.
Fordi du yngre enn meg, da. At du begynner å lure på hvem du og så.
Senere fortalte hun alltid at det var da. Det var da hun ble forelsket I.
I wonder who's the narrator to this. All the citizens know is that I love you and the way you look tonight. Ooh, the marriage of the libraries ex libris. Are we having a little bit of aping of Woody Allen? Just thinking of you. Hey, he's also in Oslo. He's Anders' friend. So this is going to be a narrative about child-free, about the child-free movement.
Ja, du blir jo snart 30 da, så det jo ikke helt feil alder å få barn I.
I'm glad he's making these decisions for you.
Jeg vil ha det. Jeg vil ha barn. På et eller annet tidspunkt.
I do like this aspect of Joachim Trier, that he does seem pretty dialed into modern trends without like judging them as much. But like the gaming aspect was present in Oslo, August 31st. And the phone thing is present here without it being like directly commented on. It's like they wouldn't make it so obvious to say something about it because in world this has been like a cultural norm for years. We're doing a Spike Lee. 'Cause it's alright if you still belong. Ooh. Another fun European couples retreat movie. French movie Little White Lies with Marion Cotillard. Oh fuck, god damn it. There's the intro. I noted this a little bit in Oslo, August 31st, but Joachim Trier has very interesting idea of, I don't know how to describe it, of room tone, of transitioning between rooms and the different sounds that rooms create. It's a very, very small detail, and I don't know if it really amounts to much, but we just heard it demonstrated there.
Men koser du mye med barna dine? Ja, selvfølgelig. Ja, det må du gjøre. Da blir det narkomane.
She's joking, but she doesn't have kids, so she's not allowed to make that joke.
Men jeg lege, så jeg snakker bare ut fra et klinisk perspektiv. Hvis barnet mitt ligger der og skriker, der
This isn't like a good or bad thing. I'm just noticing it for now that Trier's the way he's lighting scenes, he's not really afraid of shadows. There seems to be a lot of kind of unappealing shadows, or like, let's say, naturalistic shadows that are covering a lot of the face and kind of cutting out the eyes and stuff, and it seems very intentional in the way that it's employed. Don't know if I'd say it's good, but it's intentional.
Okay.
It's very ugly in an intentional way. It's very ugly. Like these aren't like glamour shots of these characters. These are characters who are living under, almost like they're living under street lamps. So while it's not flattering, it's very urban kind of lighting.
kjæreste som veldig glad i.
Ja, altså.
Nei, utroskap ikke
Det ikke bra.
bra. Men hvor går egentlig grensa?
There's a moment where you think, I can do this. I can decide whether or not I want to turn away. I don't know when your moment was, but I know you had one.
Det her å være utro?
Right.
I haven't seen Closer in like approaching 15 years. Whatever happened to Patrick Marber? Is that his name?
Forlutt på sletten din.
Nei.
Jo.
Nei.
Jo.
Mener du det?
Ja. Det innenfor. Nå angrer jeg.
Fornuftig.
It's nice to see the weird way people actually flirt. It's very weird, but it's very real.
Jeg synes det lukter godt.
You could like feel both of them getting hard.
Jeg synes egentlig at sex er best når pikken ikke er helt hard.
What? It's a very dark movie. I do like that. I do actually like that as a contrast to Oslo, which kind of felt lower contrast. I mean, not that this isn't low contrast, but this is very deeply dark.
Okay.
I know this is like filmmakers jacking off to themselves and stuff, but it takes a strong confidence to make movies that are dark like this and make it an intentional choice and still make it like legible and interesting. This is a sort of thing. This kind of darkness makes me wish I had watched it in a movie theater, because like that feels like intimate in its own way. Like you're hiding in a movie theater watching something. It allows. It's almost its own kind of permission for an audience. Watching each other piss. God. I mean, Joachim Trier does have a good beat of the weird ways people fucking flirt. It's like nothing romantic about it whatsoever. It's not like charming or fairy tale-ish. It's really kind of ugly and dirty, but you can like feel the chemistry from it. It's truly kind of attractive in its own way.
Vi var ikke utro da.
Vi var ikke det?
Vi var ikke det.
Nei. Ha det.
And I like this aspect of kind of millennial kind of thought process, a very kind of neurotic and introspective thought process. As long as you're conforming to a social perception of what are the rules or definitions of what is cheating and what's not cheating, then you're not committing an emotional trespass or a trespass of intimacy. Odd timing. It's not cheating.
Har dere green yoga? Oi.
It's just clumsy today. I don't know what's going on.
Green yoga. Den kom I fjor. Må spesialbestilles når jeg ikke inne. Hvor lang tid tar det da?
Oh, he gave her the full jaw drop. Good to see you again.
Nei takk.
It's good to see
Men har
you
ikke heller.
again.
Ok, vi kan prøve ark.
Oh no! Okay, bye. Sorry, he's with the yoga girl now. Eek, eek, eek. I'm about to ruin that boy's life.
Så har jeg glemt brillene mine. Måtte bare si at masse på deg hele tiden. Jeg vil ikke plage deg om du er lykkelig og sånn.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy. Philip Seymour Hoffman voice. I'm not happy.
Jeg skal ikke...
They have great chemistry. I gotta say, they have great
så jeg
chemistry.
lyst til å treffe deg igjen.
I can't believe it.
Du kan komme ned på åpen bakeri på Barcode.
Maybe it's just my preferences, but for how awkward they are,
Altså, jeg
they have
jobber der.
great chemistry. Electric with potential. The amount of magnetic force their genitals are displaying to each other. She wants that limp dick.
Er kaffe?
Run. Go to him. Meet him at the airport. Female protagonist not running in a 2020 movie challenge impossible. I'm not mad at it. Joachim Trier can be, you know, artsy-fartsy sometimes. Sometimes he really gets into the minds of these characters and you fall in love with it and them and him. And it's a really rough way. He's done a great job of capturing this kind of feeling of love or magnetism in a, like, visceral way. Yeah, very, very conscious. I'm very conscious of the Woody Allen of it all, which is a shame, but it's very apparent. I don't know what to say. I haven't gotten to see attraction depicted so well in a movie in a long time. Intense, blossoming, youthful, earnest, nascent desire. So, it's really, really nice.
Jeg må stikke.
I said this earlier for, I think for the Almodovar video, the Parallel Mothers video, but great directors, what they really control in certain scenes is time, the ability to compress it, to expand it, to make you experience time in a wholly unfamiliar and yet completely relatable way. Experience time in a way that you have never seen represented before, but you can feel and understand and intuit. This is a really beautiful sequence.
Jeg vil at det skal være slutt.
This is a lovely film. I was expecting it to be like kind of dutiful and presenting whatever about modern life.
Jeg bare lurer på om du til stede I dette her I det hele tatt.
The emotions are really there.
Du liksom hva du I ferd med å gjøre nå. Skjønner du hva du ødelegger og hva det...
Ja, selvfølgelig.
Ooh, she cries through her makeup. That's beautiful. Damn!
Nei, kom igjen nå.
Det slutt.
You really feel it all the way in Anders Danielsen Lie's performance, as accommodating as he attempts to be. How this is kind of like blown up his entire world.
Ja, fortell meg hva jeg holder på med.
Ja, jeg skal fortelle deg det. Hold kjeft da! Så skal jeg fortelle deg hva du holder på med. Du prøver å spille ut et oppgjør du aldri har
you should not do that now.
Du bruker meg til det.
Hvis man føler noe, og så setter man ord på det, enn å bare kunne føle det, og bare være I det, og være...
This is also something that Scorsese mentions, in case you're thinking about that camera shake. Scorsese had a similar moment in Casino, in an intimate scene between Sharon Stone and Robert De Niro, and he specifically talked about how he had to prize the emotion over the technical error. And so this is an instance where I think if that camera shake was not intentional, which I doubt it was intentional, that just happened to be like the take that had the most juice in terms of the actor's performance.
Unnskyld for alt jeg sa.
Det går bra. Samme sier jeg også.
2 movies, by the way, today I've watched that culminated in an eating out scene.
I said goodbye to me. I looked in the
Getting that good soft dick. She loves that ass. She also did that with the couple when they had their freeze frame moment. Maybe she'll get accidentally pregnant. I'm trying to think of what a third act to this would look like. Yeah, she's into that app. Okay, she's just biting it. I thought she like went in raw to...
Det var på en måte derfor jeg hadde litt lyst til at du skulle se på meg.
Ja, du har det stæsjet her fortsatt.
Hva det for noe?
Det fleinsopp.
Just mushrooms. Yeah.
Oi, ja.
I see. She's gonna experience like ego death.
Å, fy faen. Smaker jord.
It's called umami.
Anyway.
Yeah, camera.
Jeg tror ikke de funker uansett, ass. Vi snakkes i morgen.
Vi ringer så bra.
Ja.
Oh. That jacket is so interesting. PCP. Those are not pretty feet. My most controversial take on the worst person in the world. Renate Reinsve's feet are not great. And we got a little bit of a train spotting there. Just a perfect day. I actually didn't want like 2 flourishes in this movie, 2 artistic flourishes, or at least not 2 so close together. It takes it from being like an interesting story into being like a story a little bit obsessed with its own artistry. Like this is aping Big Lebowski a little bit too much for me. Because like the reason we had the stuck in time moment is because that was an emotional experience, an emotional climax for this character. And so while this artistically is very fun and it's an enjoyable experience, it's for a moment that I don't know is like an emotional core to this movie.
Julie, går det bra?
I mean, I guess we're going with the plot point that the trip makes her realize some deeper kind of anxieties or attachments that she's had.
Det her skal vi ikke gjøre igjen. Burde ta en kattevask.
Lukter annet.
You have period blood on your face. So like the mushroom trip was fun and it did kind of reinforce or reveal, restate the kind of underpinning anxieties or feelings of the character, but it did it in a like very kind of literal presentational way instead of letting the kind of themes or anxieties emerge again kind of organically within the story. So like at the 40-minute mark or the hour 20 mark, we needed to know that Julia is concerned with childbirth and with parenthood and with the issues with her father again, but we're not going to show that in any way in terms of her dynamics with her partner or her dynamics with her ex. We're going to have it be revealed in a drug trip, which, I mean, it's fine. It's just, it's more artistically self-conscious than I think it is emotionally attuned to the script. Was that hour 20 minutes? That was hour 20 minutes, yeah. That's beautiful. Oslo is beautiful. I've really loved seeing this depiction of this city across these 2 films.
Det veldig ubehagelig å se at du har skapt en karakter som får så mye popularitet på bekostning av kvinner.
Ja, ok. Så du kun skal være
Yo, your boyfriend's cancelled.
Jo,
Ja, ok, jeg skal prøve å illustrere det. Hvis jeg for eksempel lager...
Oh, she's falling in love with him again, seeing him all hot and heavy. Is that what's happening? Oh my god. I can't get into women's brains.
Snakker du noe med Aksel, eller?
I guess Norley is like a big franchise or branch.
Ja, jeg hørte bare det radiointervjuet.
Det går jo egentlig ikke så bra. Du vet ikke at han
I
er syk.
think. Oh.
Aksel?
Har du ikke hørt det? Han har kreft.
Oh.
Bukspyttkjertelkreft.
Oh no. They brought up pancreatic cancer earlier. When did they do that? They brought it up with her father that he was having trouble peeing and that it wasn't cancer. Oh, that's terrible and weird and like Freudian. Let's just hope. Oh, pregnancy. I was gonna say that she's not gonna get a STI, but she's pregnant. Let's hope this movie ends with an abortion.
Nei, jeg finner kanskje noe ny musikk, da. Som jeg ikke har hørt.
Charlie XCX.
At min verden den liksom litt borte. Kanskje noe med at jeg vokste opp med kulturobjekter som var fysiske.
Like Victor Hugo, like The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Vi kunne omgi oss med dem. Altså, jeg har bare fortsatt med, selv om det ganske lenge siden jeg ga meg sånn skikkelig sterke opplevelser. Tidlig i 20-årene, liksom.
Well, that's a hormone thing.
Allikevel jeg fortsatt.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of that cycle. Speaking truly from experience.
Nå har jeg ikke noe annet. Nå er det ikke noe forover. Nå kan jeg bare se tilbake på ting.
That is the trap of nostalgia, I suppose.
Og det liksom ikke nostalgi, det bare...
All right, well, fuck me, I guess.
Jeg bare prøver å putte det inn i...
He's a great actor.
Du det minst moraliserende mennesket jeg vet om. Har liksom ingen å snakke med. Sånn som vi kunne snakke.
You'll realize that what we had was special.
Kan du si det du pleide å si om at du trodde jeg ville bli en god mor?
Wow.
Er du gravid?
Wow.
Gratulerer. Eller...
His life ends. She's starting a new life. Oh, man.
Jeg har sånn stemmen din i hodet mitt. Jeg har noen veldig gode samtaler med deg fortsatt. Mye tegneserier og...
I'm like reserving my thoughts for until after the movie ends. So I guess as a placeholder, I'll say that obviously these two are great performers, and it's great to see kind of their relationship develop over the course of these last few minutes.
Kan jeg spørre deg noe? Hadde du truffet han allerede da du gjorde slutt med meg?
I mean, just don't answer that.
Du var det viktigste forholdet i livet mitt.
Oh, man. I wish I had the opportunity to say something like that. What a gut punch. I know you don't feel the same thing. I know you don't feel the same way, but you're the most important person in my entire life. You were the most important relationship in my entire life. I don't even know who I would say that to.
Jeg burde sagt det. Jeg har ikke klart å si det. Jeg gravid.
It's an interesting room tone again.
Jeg føler at jeg ikke klarer å gjennomføre.
That's such a bad reason. Is that why? Oh my god, what an awful reason. I've been waiting this entire third act to understand what was the change in her feelings, and this is it. I'm enormously disappointed. Maybe that's what this movie is reaching for, that it's not really her undergoing growth, but her experiencing a different type of like narcissistic behavior and depicting that as honestly as possible. If it is, I think it's perhaps too subtle to have been communicated properly. We'll see. We'll see how it ends, and we'll see with the postscript. But something I want to flag for later on is that fundamentally her conflict of it depends on how it's interpreted, but her conflict in wanting to have a child or not wanting to have a child is not exactly aligned with her changeable personality and her inability to finish or complete things. Her conflict with having children came from the neglect she felt with her father. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. And so I just want to put a pin in that. That's not like that these are kind of trying to merge two different kind of thematic points. Perhaps not perfectly.
Vil ikke være en stemme inn i hodet ditt. Vil ikke leve videre i kunsten min. Leve i leiligheten min sammen med deg. At vi skal ha det fint.
Maybe set up like a commune kind of system. I'm gonna be rude, but she's missing out on a very simple opportunity to get a big cash payout by sticking with him in his final days.
Nå det snakk om at han kanskje ikke klarer seg gjennom natten. Han har familien sin her og sånn, men jeg tenkte kanskje du ville vite det.
See, for me, this is an example of her seeing something through. Her being able to see through the death of her former lover, one of the loves of her life. I think that is indicating kind of consistency or devotion on our part, that having a child you don't need to have a child to prove. I think this is like a successful kind of arc for her to stay with him through this through the termination of his life, and not fall in love with him again, and not change her mind about it again, but acting as a ballast for him. I don't know. I think that's a moment of growth for her. Let me get the Oslo shot again. Period blood? Yeah, to show that she's not pregnant anymore. This is happening post-COVID. Haha. That's weird. Awesome. Good for them.
Takk! Kjempebra.
She's a stills photographer for the production. I read about something else. Somebody who is a stills photographer for a production. What was it?
It's the end of the road. It's the rest of the scum.
Wow. Isn't it just though?
It is life. It's the sun.
It was Chungking Express. The actor who portrayed the shop owner, Midnight Express or whatever, he was actually a stills photographer for the production. So when you see production stills from that movie, he's not in any of them because he was actually taking them. Alright, I am glad they didn't pivot the final act around her being pregnant, about whether or not she would have a child. Yeah, okay. Good with that. Herbert Nodrum. Okay, good. I'm glad they didn't hinge the final act ultimately on whether or not she was pregnant and whether or not she was choosing to have kids, because I think that that kind of runs a bit aground in terms of the actual arc of her being like needing to complete something and kind of come into her own kind of adulthood and identity fully. Yeah, I think I said it before, but I guess I'll try and restate it as clearly as possible, that the arc that she's meant to be going on is whether or not she can self-actualize, come into her own as a person, as a secure identity, and she attaches that onto the idea of whether or not she's able to have kids, which is not the case. That wouldn't be a signal of whether or not she's mature or a capable adult, and that's like a terrible reason to have a child, to kind of affirm that sense of self-identity. And I think that her fears of having kids is more tied into her relationship with her father, and fears of neglect or not being emotionally available for her children, in the way that her father wasn't for her. And I think that can tie in some ways to a narrative about her not feeling like a responsible adult and stuff, but I think it gets a bit muddy. So I like that they resolved that ultimately her personhood, her maturity doesn't lie in whether or not she chooses to have kids, and she can find her way with it without making that kind of decision. It's not even that she needs to choose to be child free in order to be mature. It's that her identity, her coming into her own being is an arc that is completely separate from that. That's not the central issue to her, the conflict of her identity. This is like beautifully acted by Renate Reinsve and Anders Danielsen Lie and Herbert Nodrum. And I think it was a beautiful depiction of these different kind of points in the life of this female female character in ways that aren't usually depicted so much in film, especially the third act of sitting with a friend through their death, sitting with a loved one through their death. I think that was kind of like really powerfully articulated in this film. I think this isn't like a direct criticism of the movie so much as me kind of stating my preferences, that I kind of lost I kind of lost a bit of steam with the character of Julia as the third act kind of crested. A lot of my kind of energy and sympathy and curiosity honestly went towards the Axel character. I was really kind of more kind of emotionally invested in his journey and his arc for a big span of the third act, and so it got really kind of confusing because I didn't really know when I thought that the story would be whether or not Julia decides to have the baby. It really became like a binary problem for me. The third act became like whether or not she would choose to have this baby, and I didn't really get a sense of why she would or why she wouldn't. It was just that binary. It just became a question of yes or no, and the kind of emotional journey into why she would choose either wasn't really well described within that for me, and so I became more invested in Axel's character as a result. But I think it found a way back again and kind of resolve those two contradictory aspects, me being less interested in Julia and more interested in Axel, by having the actual arc of the final part of the movie be her being able to sit through this illness, this terminus with her loved one, and being able to accept that and not have it change her personality, not have her like suddenly fall in love with him again or devote herself to him again, but kind of help him and sustain him through this process, and then grieve in her own private way. And that's how she shows emotional growth as a character. I think that's a beautifully wrought story, and a really kind of true story to the human condition, and something that's not really depicted that well in a lot of movies, mainstream or otherwise. Like, this kind of arc happens in a lot of movies where characters undergo growth and change, and it happens like when they lose a job, or when they break up with their spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend, or there's a lot of kind of external modern like job-oriented, task-oriented things that screenwriters use to kind of hinge this arc on. And so, but presenting this like true-to-life time of helping a loved one through death and experiencing death in an intimate and real way as a starting point for growth or for internal change was a really, really finely wrought kind of story. And not just like having a character that you love die and coping with that grief, although that is a good story when it is told, but actually helping them at the end of their life. That's something that's so rarely seen in movies. So yeah, I did really enjoy this. I'm going to take some time to think about it. I really loved the character of Yulia in the end. Although the arc is like very, very familiar of, you know, a young girl comes to self-identify, this was done in a very, very different way. So yeah, that was the worst person in the world. Why is it called the worst person in the world? Anyways, if you like the movie, leave a comment. Tell me your thoughts about the movie. And don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. And until next time, keep watching good movies.